All right, it's the late 1950s, folks. We are in China, and this man, Mao Zedong, he is in charge. We're in the middle of the Great Leap Forward. It's an aggressive campaign to modernize China in order to make it competitive with Western powers, especially its mortal enemy, the United States. China is looking to A, industrialize, and B, buy weapons to keep their enemies at bay. So they're going to need some fast money for these weapons, and all they really have to trade is agrarian products, chiefly wheat. They're going to need lots and lots and lots of wheat. Now, China is a command economy. It's centralized, so the command goes out from the center. More wheat, more yield. Not a little more, a whole lot more, okay? And so unrealistic quotas are going to be set by the Communist Party, and then these quotas are going to be doubled and tripled by local provincial governors trying to look good for Beijing. Super cool posters are printed up because that's what the Chinese do. They make these awesome posters. Check out this one. It reads, "The commune is like a gigantic dragon. Production is noticeably awe-inspiring." Well, who could argue with that? And then in the midst of all of this frenzy to grow wheat, some genius, actually this guy, he's going to notice a flock of sparrows grazing over the wheat fields. He's going to put one and one together and cleverly deduce that these birds are agents of imperialism eating good Marxist grain. It's going to be this stroke of science mastery that will see the sparrow target along with the rodent, mosquito, and fly on China's Four Pest campaign. For more wheat to grow, the sparrow must be eradicated from all four corners of China. And so the challenge, my friends, is set. It's this species of bird against this man. Welcome to Ad Hoc History number 1. It's Mao versus the Sparrows. Okay, welcome to Ad Hoc Histories. I'm Coady, I'm your teacher, and today we're looking at Mao versus the Sparrows. If you want the PDF of this document, you can get it in the description of this YouTube video. You might want to grab a couple of crayons and a red marker. Okay, we probably know what that's for. Interestingly enough, this coloring book of Mao, found that in a coloring book for kids. So not sure about that because that's like kind of having Hitler in a coloring book. If you want to do the numbers, I think Mao has actually killed more than Hitler in the 20th century. But hey, we're not going to complain too much. So get your materials if you want them. Otherwise, we're going to get started. Okay, so let's do a little context first. We're in the late 1950s. We're in China. Mao is very much in charge, and they're going to do the Great Leap Forward. And the Great Leap Forward is kind of what it sounds like. China is trying to make a great leap forward in terms of modernization. You know, at this point, it's basically agricultural. It has very little industry. It's struggling. It's a young communist revolution. The United States would like to take it away and take it off the map if it could. And so China is just going to go ahead and borrow from the Soviet playbook, right? Because the Soviets under Stalin had done this before too, right? They attempt to modernize in these 5-year plans and just do it as quickly as possible. You know, on a side note, like if Marx had woken up at this time, you know, stumbled out of his grave, I think he would have been like, hey, what's going on? Like, what happened? Did you guys read my books? Like, how is it that the only 2 Marxist nations in the world haven't industrialized or haven't gone through capitalism or socialism? What's going on here? And I think Mao would have been like, yeah, no, I get it. It looks bad, Carl. It's okay. We're going to catch up. Don't worry about it. And that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to catch up. They're going to want to grow just a ton of wheat. And there's 2 reasons for this. One, you can't have an industrial revolution without an agricultural revolution. You got to have food in mass production to be able to support cities where people can work in factories, right? So that's just essential. But the other thing that they want to do is they want to buy weapons. They want to buy weapons from Czechoslovakia, which is a Soviet proxy state, and they're going to trade them wheat because the Czechs need wheat and the Chinese need weapons. So Mao's going to have some advantages in this scenario, okay? One is he's in charge. I mean, Mao is in charge of China. He's a straight up dictator and a totalitarian regime. I mean, this guy's maybe, you know, possibly most powerful person in the history of the world. In fact, you know, I just felt kind of chill on the back of my neck You never know when Mao's going to pop up again, because this is someone who popped up a lot in the 20th century. He's been as dead as long as I've been alive, but I still don't trust that he might not be behind me. So I'm just going to calm my nerves a little bit and go and just color him in and talk about it a little bit. It's always good to settle yourself down with a little coloring. Even adults do it these days, as I color this picture from a book that was for kids about a guy who killed 60 million people, whatever. So we'll give him a little green here, right? Now Mao is in charge, okay? Like, if Mao wanted to move a mountain, like, he could have moved a mountain. Probably the only person in history could have moved a mountain. Not sure why he would want to do that, but like, could have done it, okay? If Mao wanted to take, 15 million people from this part of the country and put them in this part of the country, oh yeah, sure, yeah, no problem. Please don't kill us, we'll get it done, give us a month, okay? Because that's the situation. Okay, so he has that going for him, if you want to see it that way, okay? There is a bit of an issue here, though, as well. So with a command economy, let's draw this. I have this cool idea. It's just like a lotus flower, and I actually know what a lotus flower looks like, but whatever. If I do command economy here, the idea of a command economy is that whatever the central government wants, it just requests and gets, right? Unless, again, you want to die. So at the center in Beijing, they're going to say what the policy is or what they need, and they're going to get exactly what they want, okay? Because that's what command economies do. Mao is in charge of this big command economy. There's no incentivization, there's no market surveys, there's no private enterprise. So this is a really powerful machine. Between the dictatorship of Mao and the fact that it's a Marxist state has a command economy, because not all dictators have command economies, but Marxist states do. So he has that power, but it's also like, it would be kind of like me jumping into a jet fighter plane, right? Like, I can drive a car and a motorcycle, but if you put me in a jet fighter, the possibilities for disaster are pretty extreme because it's so responsive and it goes so fast. And so command economies are effective, but they can also be effectively destructive. I'll give you a couple examples here. Check this one out. Like that? Like that? Okay, cool. That's like an example of a command economy type building. I guess it's kind of cool, looking at it. It probably was a nightmare inside. It reeks of brutalism, right? How about this one? You like this? Yeah, kind of like something a hipster might drive in a seaport town, which is cool. Like, I can see buying that to go downtown and get myself some croissants, but I can't imagine going more than 4 blocks before that breaking down. And then this is probably my favorite example. Check this dance craze out. Okay, this was a dance craze created by a central committee in East Germany to combat the evils of Western disco coming in. You like that? I don't think that's gonna really catch on, if you know what I mean. Okay, so the command's gonna go out, right? The command's gonna go out to just grow lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of wheat, okay? They're just gonna grow so much wheat. It's gonna solve all the problems of China. They're gonna buy weapons from Czechoslovakia, they're gonna have their agricultural revolution, and it's gonna be awesome. And it unfortunately gets a little crazy. Okay, so for example, they had this thing called close-grown wheat. Close-grown wheat was the idea of, we're just gonna grow the wheat so close, it's gonna grow so thick, we're just gonna plant more seeds than anyone else in history had ever thought of doing, because no one in history ever thought of planting seeds closely. We're gonna plant the seeds so closely, the wheat's gonna grow so thick that children are gonna be able to walk on top of the wheat. Now, does that sound crazy to you? Well, guess what? They did it in this doctored photo. These kids are not standing on wheat. They're like standing on a platform behind the wheat. Meanwhile, Mao is taking train trips across China, and my understanding is they would actually, along the train ride, make sure that there was a ton of wheat, like even if it was just propped up, so that when Mao looked out at the train, he'd be like, oh, things are looking good. We're growing a lot of wheat here. And then the train would go and the wheat would just fall over. Here's the thing that happens that's really bad, okay? Close-grown wheat, kids sitting on platforms, whatever. This is where the corruption of the system is really going to reveal itself, okay? Because why? Because what happens is that the first provincial governor at some kind of conference might say proudly, I can grow 2,000 bushels on every acre, okay? I'm going to just rock this Great Leap Forward so hard, and I'm just going to grow so much wheat. But then you know what happened? The provincial governor next to him is like, well, I could do 2 times that. And that's, this isn't really even possible, 2,000 bushels per acre. I don't know what it was. And then the next governor is going to say, well, I can do twice that. And then the next governor is going to say, I can do 3 times that, right? And then the next governor is, are you kidding? I can do 4 times that. It's a total fantasy. It's a fantasy. And it's like, I think kind of particular to this command economy Marxist state where these provincial governors are trying to look good for Beijing, right? They're just trying to look good for Beijing. They're going to grow wheat, but you can be sure that every scrap of wheat is going to be sent to Beijing because they've created these crazy quotas that they just are not going to be able to fill. Okay. The next thing that happens that's going to lead to our little fun disaster here is that this guy, who I guess is like a scientist, expert, he's a biologist, one day walking out in the fields, wheat fields, I guess, in his province, and he sees something. He sees, it's dusk, he sees a bunch of sparrows going over the wheat fields, and he's like, oh my God, those sparrows, they're eating the wheat. They're eating the wheat, and I got to go to Beijing, and this is going to be awesome, because they're going to be so proud of me, and I'm going to rise in the party. Okay, before we continue, let's meet our friend here, the sparrow. Look at this guy, cute little guy. He's taking a little cute, little bird bath, just taking so cute. Okay, this is the guy that our friend, the scientist, biologist, expert, is going to want to eradicate from the face of the earth. He convinces Beijing that the sparrows are eating a ton of grain and that they need to go away. Okay, and this is how the sparrow, this guy, so cute, this guy is going to end up on this knife on the 4-Pest campaign. Okay, let's talk about the 4-Pest campaign. 4-Pest campaign probably would have had in any number of countries at the time or even now, right? These are the animals we have to get rid of, okay, because they're a plague on society. Well, mosquito, that's cool. Definitely, I'm down with that. A housefly, it's not major, but sure, why not? While we're at it, rats, sign me up. What? Who's this guy? I mean, guys, look at even on this is the 4-Pest campaign poster. Even on this poster, the sparrow looks like totally shocked and surprised that they're on this knife. Now, personally, I'm not personally into killing birds. Like, I've never killed a bird before, not really interested in it. But, if I have a choice between killing these 4, definitely not chasing rodents around the house. Definitely going to go with the sparrow. And think about it, it might be some good-looking women out there that I could hang out with as we do this sparrow hunt. I might actually be able to ride this tractor out into the ocean. This is starting to sound actually way more appealing. And then, I might even be able to take this rocket into outer space, fly a rocket into outer space. So now, yes, absolutely, sign me up. Let's go kill a bunch of sparrows. Okay, so how are we going to do this? How are we going to get all these sparrows out of China? Okay, well, a couple of fun examples first before we get to the main stuff. Here we go. You like that? Nice little winter scene here. We got some kids. Okay, we got some kids. They got a string down to the basket here. We got some sparrows that are gonna go under the basket, and then the kids are gonna yank the string, pull the string, boom, sparrows are now under the basket. But now we have a bunch of really innocent kids who have a basket with a bunch of live sparrows underneath the basket. I think some really bad childhood memories are about to happen. What do you think? Okay, how about this one? Okay, this is cool. What we got, a couple soldiers and a couple of volunteer Chinese people out in a barren wasteland. And they have their guns up. I kind of wonder what's going on here. It could be the Americans attacking from above, right? It's always possible, or something else going on here. They're defending China. And it looks like they take their shot and then boom. Wow, look at that. Oh, that's awesome. So these idiots wasted 7 bullets killing 1 sparrow here. Okay, the whole point of the campaign is to grow more wheat, to buy weapons from Czechoslovakia. They just blew 7 bullets on 1 sparrow. It's kind of a bad bullet to sparrow ratio, if you ask me. I think the basket was actually a better idea. But that's not mostly how they catch the sparrows. One way they catch the sparrows is nets, which is almost the definition of insanity, is chasing things around with nets. But apparently that's what they do. They run around with nets catching sparrows, particularly at dusk. So like in a city like Beijing, on the rooftops, you'd see people running back and forth on the rooftops trying to catch sparrows. I mean, what do you think? Did someone fall off the rooftop at some point in Beijing chasing a sparrow? I think probably they did. The other thing, and this is actually a little bit more gruesome, is the pots and pans. Yeah, pots and pans and noisemakers too. Okay, there were these things that were like noisemakers. Why would you have pots and pans to kill sparrows? Well, because groups of people hitting pots and pans and yelling would chase flocks of sparrows around for so long, the sparrows would get so exhausted that they would fall from the sky and then, I guess, die, or, like get killed at that point. So this is actually a really, really successful way. And let me tell you, I like social time too. It's not golf exactly, but it's really starting to work. The sparrows are just piling up all over China. And in fact, here's an interesting side story. In Beijing, they actually really did get rid of all the sparrows. Like there were no sparrows left except in the courtyard of the Polish embassy. In the embassy, I guess these sparrows found safety or asylum, and they were in the courtyard, and Chinese people were walking by, and they're like, hey, look, there's sparrows in the courtyard of the Polish embassy. They knock on the door of the Polish embassy. You guys have sparrows. You got to give us the sparrows. Give us over the sparrows. And the Polish are like, what? Wait, what's going on? What's going on now? So the Chinese started protests. You know what they do? Guess what? They bang pots and pans, and they encircle the Polish embassy until the sparrows get so tired that they drop to the ground. But it is a total success that's going to lead to a total, unmitigated, avoidable disaster. Guess what? The sparrow, this scientist who thought the sparrow was eating the wheat on the fields, wasn't actually eating the wheat on the fields. Might have had a little bit of wheat, but was not eating the wheat. You know what they were eating? Insects. They were eating the insects that were eating the wheat. The sparrows were dive bombing the wheat fields because they were picking off the insects that were eating the wheat. Which, if you had asked probably any farmer, if you had actually taken the time to ask any farmer, would have been like, no, the sparrows aren't really eating the wheat. It's the insects that are eating the wheat. But that's not what happens. And so what happens is that the insects go on the biggest carbo-loading tier in the history of insects. It's like unbelievable how much they eat, okay? And there's also a drought coming. And so there's this drought, and that's a natural phenomenon. And there's this quota system, right? And all of this is going to lead to the great, not leap forward, the great, it's going to lead to the Great Famine, okay? The Great Famine. And we history teachers of the world often are in the position where we have to do these skull and crossbones to represent death. Up to, like, I've seen 20 million, I've seen 45 million. Why don't we just say 30 million? Up to 30 million people dead of the Great Famine. And not only that, they're dying next to fields of wheat because there's still wheat being grown. But these quotas are sending the wheat out of the provinces. So people are literally starving to death next to food because these idiots and Mao is trying to buy weapons from Czechoslovakia. So you really see this massive, massive corruption of the system. Okay, it also leads to one of the most awkward phone conversations of the 20th century, I think. I don't know if Mao actually called Khrushchev, but I like to think he did. So let's replay this phone call.
Hey, Nikita, how you doing? I saw your speech on dialectical material foundational industrial might. That was awesome. So good. Oh, that speech, I just threw it together. It really wasn't much of anything. Oh, no. It was excellent. Hey, I have a quick question for you. Do you know what a sparrow is?
And yeah, I guess he does. And believe it or not, Mao asks Khrushchev for sparrows. He says,
I have a sparrow situation. I don't really want to go into it, but could you send me some sparrows?
And Khrushchev does. He sends him 250,000 sparrows on a Soviet train into China. So you get Soviet trains bringing Soviet sparrows to hover over fields and kill the insects while Chinese people died looking up the sparrows which they had been trained to kill and now have to be retrained. Not the ones dying, of course, but now they have to be retrained not to kill them. And in fact, in the Four Pests campaign, they replaced the sparrow with the bedbug, who's so small, I'm not sure he could fit on the sword in that awesome propaganda poster. These aren't always easy, but let me tell you, we got a winner here, and it's the sparrow. Because if you go and look out your window this afternoon, you'll probably see a sparrow zooming by, having the time of its life. Whereas this guy, I think, this guy is as dead as... Okay, now, the other thing is, this is school, right? The bell has not rung yet, and you guys do have homework. Okay, so what do we have for homework? Well, you can subscribe to the channel. Okay, I'll give you plus points for that, plus points. You can follow us on TikTok. I don't even know TikTok well enough to know if that's the right icon. I do know Instagram, though. So if you want to post your notes to Instagram, I would recommend hashtag Ad Hoc Mao, which has kind of got a ring to it, okay? Post your own notes, Ad Hoc Mao. And then, yeah, homework, okay? We have our homework cards. Boom, 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 boom. All right, so your homework for tonight is, that's so easy. Night sky gut check, but it's actually not that easy. It might seem easy, but it's not that easy. So tonight I want you to go out where the stars are out and go look up and do a gut check about your petty, petty, petty concerns and contemplate space. Some of you probably won't ever recover from looking up at the sky, but I do recommend it. Now you probably want a research paper, but that's your homework, and I'll be watching. And I hope you guys watch next week.